Season is here. Begins Wednesday, Washington at home, then Washington here on Thursday. The Penguins open it up, and a lot of optimism. We'll get into all that in a second. But, guys, I want to start with Daniel Sprong. Jim Rutherford seemed to make it like he's going to be part of our top six. He was very bullish on him. Mike Sullivan gave him an opportunity, but it didn't last very long. So my question to you, Josh, we'll start with you. How long should Daniel Sprong be given on the top line? He's already off of it down to a fourth line. Shouldn't he get some time in the regular season?
Probably, Bob, and I think he will. Listen, a guy like Daniel Sprong, I think he's only truly going to be utilized to the best of his ability if he plays with Crosby or Malkin. He's a finisher. He's not the kind of guy who's really going to thrive on the fourth line. That said, the Penguins are in the business of winning, and they had a pretty poor start last season. They had to struggle their way just to make the postseason last year, don't forget. Mike Sullivan wants no parts of that again. So if he's comfortable with his top three lines, he's going to play those guys. He's going to play Patrick Hornqvist with Crosby. I don't blame him. The fact is, just watching Sprong every day in training camp, I thought the first couple of days he was good. From that point on, he was really disappointing. He was essentially invisible in games. You still have to earn that spot a little bit, and I don't think he's done enough to do that.
And there's some problems with playing Sprong in the top six as well. And Mike Sullivan really wants Evgeny Malkin to focus on his shooting, and which I guess is one reason why you might not want to play him with Phil Kessel, but that pairing has still been really, really good. You play him with Daniel Sprong, how's that going to work out? You have two players with that sort of style. I'm not so sure that Carl Hagelin can cover for that mess. Daniel Sprong hasn't done himself any favors by how he's handled himself in the neutral zone, how he's handled himself away from the puck. There's certain things that'll get you in Mike Sullivan's good graces. Daniel Sprong doesn't do a lot of them. So he needs to score and score a lot.
Yeah, Daniel Sprong seems to be coming every single year, the annual, he's going to be the superstar. We just know it because he's got lots of talent. And then you kind of strip it away and say, well, really, how much talent does he have other than he's really fast and, you know, he's young and he's got a lot of energy? The fact that he's already in Mike Sullivan's doghouse and has been there seemingly for a year tells me that this is a guy in about another year or two, maybe not even that long, will be traded somewhere else for another team to think we can get it out of him, we know.
Yeah, but that's a little bit risky with a guy who I think has a lot of talent. And again,
there we go.
But I'm basing it on the fact that I think he needs an opportunity and a legit one. I get what you guys are saying, but all right, we'll see what happens there. They got four lines. They got a surplus of forwards as well. Look down the road at fourth lines. You know, you have all these centers. Who's going to play where, Jason, and who should play as a center versus a wing?
Well, right now they like Matt Cullen there, and I think the reason being is they feel like he's the most versatile. They like his speed on the wing, and they just like his ability. That's a really interesting fourth line, Pomp. I don't know how far down the road we want to talk about him, Shea, and Zach Aston Reese together, and even if you put Daniel Sprong there. I mean, that's a line that can score a few goals. Those two guys, they like the opportunity that if one of them gets kicks out of the face-off circle, easy for me to say that the other one's right there behind it. But they like Cullen on the wing for his speed, and Riley Sheahan's just sort of a natural, sturdy, dependable center. I think they would rather move Cullen than him.
Yeah, and keep in mind how much better the situation is right now as opposed to 12 months ago. Greg McKegg was the third-line center at this point last year. Remember him? Now Derek Brassard's there, and he's having a really strong camp. I think he's going to have a good season. You've got Sheahan and Cullen on your fourth line. It might not matter who the third guy in that fourth line is. Those two are so dependable. That's going to be a really good bottom six.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny we talk about the fourth line, but you know, Josh, you talked about Derek Brassard. To me, I think that's a much bigger issue for the Penguins in terms of if he's right, and I don't know that he was right. It seemed like he was hurt a little bit or whatever. The transition, he didn't play like we thought he could play when he came. If he's got a big season, or if he has a big year, if he's back, that, to me, is going to take this team back to, you know, where they were 2 years ago when they were the best team in the league.
He might be the single biggest X factor on this team. They're going to be a good team whether he has a good season or not. But if Derek Brassard scores 20 to 25 goals, gives them quality two-way play, that takes them to a different level. And that's why they acquired him, to be special down the middle. And if he's good, yes. Boy, this is going to be a scary good team.
And that line is kind of interesting, too. You have Dominic Simone on the left side, Brassard in the middle, and Rust on the right, further complicating the Sprong factor and figuring out where he plays.
Yeah, Mike Sullivan really likes Dominic Simone, and I think with good reason. But it's very interesting how it all works out, and it's good to have competition, and this team will be good, no doubt. The Eastern Conference is loaded. We'll continue when we come back. We need to take a break right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.